I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Now, today we're reading from the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 14. Let's focus on verses 32 through 35. And the prophets' spirits are under the control of the prophets, since God is not a God of disorder, but of peace. As in all the churches of the saints, the women should be silent in the churches, for they are not permitted to speak, but should be submissive, as the law also says. And if they want to learn something, they should ask their own husbands at home, for it is disgraceful for a woman to speak in the church meeting. Now, just so you know, my wife and I are in agreement of the things that I'm about to say, because I know this can be a very hot topic, and some of you are probably already about to blow a fuse. It's in the Bible for a reason, so we shouldn't ignore it. Simply because it's controversial. We should get to know what is God really trying to say, which is the purpose of reading the Bible anyway. So let's begin by observing what the scripture here does not say. It does not say that women are in any way inferior, spiritually or intellectually. I believe that this passage is less a commentary even on women's conduct than it is an exhortation to men on their natural bent toward passivity. Now take a closer look at Paul's instruction to these women, 1 Corinthians 14, verse 35. And if they want to learn something, they should ask their own husbands at home. Well, if you break that down, there's a lot going on. So I'm convinced that what was happening there in the church in Corinth was that women are generally more spiritually sensitive than men. Now, we know this is true even in our world. If you want to start a Bible study or a prayer group, call some women. Don't call men, because they're just not bent toward that kind of thing. Men don't generally gravitate toward spiritual things. And yet, in His wisdom, not social norm, in God's infinite wisdom, He calls men who are not bent toward spiritual things to be the spiritual leaders in their homes. And this idea is considered by many to be arcane or a slap in the face of women's rights. That's not what's going on. Number one, don't put God's character on trial. He knows best throughout the generations. So when people decry the Bible for being out of step with our culture, we have to fall back on one foundational truth: God knows best. And He has commanded fathers to lead spiritually. Deuteronomy chapter 11, verses 18 and 19. Impress these words of mine on your hearts and souls, bind them as signs on your hands. These are instructions to the men of Israel. Let them be a symbol on your foreheads. Everything that you think about is my word. Teach them to your children, talking about them when you sit in your house and when you walk along the road and when you lie down and when you get up. So I believe what Paul is addressing, as he's addressing the women at Corinth, he was telling them that they were disgracing their husbands and thus themselves, along with the church, by exposing their husbands' lack of spiritual leadership at home. Lest putting women in their place, Paul's exhortation was intended for certain men of the church to step up and to start fulfilling their responsibilities, to be priests in their own home. You see, a woman should ask her own husband. Don't come ask us. Ask your own husband spiritual questions, and he should be prepared to answer her correctly. And when a man fails to lead properly, well, then those under his authority are always tempted to sidestep God's order and take control. And God, by the way, is the epitome of order and control. So, men, do your jobs, and women won't be justifiably tempted to usurp the authority that the Lord has designed for you. Women, honor the Lord and the role that He has given your husband by respecting and honoring him, especially in public. I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Now, Groundworks Ministries operates entirely through financial donations from faithful people like you. And yes, we need your monthly support. Now, donating is secure and it's easy at our website, groundworksministries.com. Another way to help is to tell people about Groundworks Ministries. You can share these podcasts with friends and family and on your social media. And of course, you can always direct folks to our website, groundworksministries.com.